Hello, this is the Green Report, where Rappler's show on the environment and the stories of people whose decisions impact the world around us. I'm Iya Gozum, and with us today is Froilan Grate, Executive Director of Gaia Philippines, to talk about starting a zero-waste lifestyle. So, Froilan, before we start with the lifestyle talk, maybe we could start with how you began your environmental advocacy. Maybe you could share that with us.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me here. My journey actually started about 20 years ago as a young college student. I was a bit bored at the time, so I was looking for ways where I could contribute to society, and I explored volunteer work, and I happened to volunteer for several environmental organizations. And that's where I was made aware of the problems, and so I was looking for ways to contribute. My first engagement was as a environmental educator for training teachers on how to incorporate environment into their lessons. But I realized is that education is really critical towards systems change, but it takes time. And so, as an educator, also I need to be to have the integrity to be able to tell people what we need to do, right? And so it started this journey towards how can I be believable? How can I make environmental education be relatable to people? And I've explored ways to do things personally for me. When I started, I developed these 10 simple things that you can do for the environment. I conducted probably 1,000 workshops all over the country to share this. And for me, it was critical that I actually not only believe but practice those 10 simple things. When I started about 20 years ago, it wasn't as easy. When I would go shopping, I'd bring my own reusable bag. And one big mall would send their guards to follow me just so I don't steal, because it wasn't very popular. When we were campaigning with one fast food company, a multinational fast food company, for them to stop using plastic cups, they weren't as receptive. And that really showed me that the ultimate goal of systems change. Even if we all stop using straws, even if we all stop using plastic bags, if the corporations and the governments doesn't create a system where it allows everyone to participate, it's not going to make a big impact. But at the same time, as we work for that vision that we want, it is critical that we do the simple things right now. One, because it is easy, it's possible. But for me, most importantly, because it inspires people. It makes them believe that it can be done.
Why is it, personally, why do you think it's important that you yourself practice these small things?
So part of my work was to conduct workshops for local government officials. And one of our recommendations is for them to regulate plastic bags. Remember, 20 years ago, plastic bag bans wasn't as popular in the Philippines. Right now, there are several cities doing it, but 20 years ago, it wasn't. And when you talk to a mayor, the first question is, why? How can we ban plastic bags? People would revolt, people would complain. And it's hard to convince them if you yourself haven't shown that it's possible. Because they would ask you, how can people do their shopping? How can people buy stuff if plastic bags are not there? So I had to ensure that when I tell them it's possible, it's because I've done it. And it makes my work a lot easier to say that I haven't used a single plastic bag for 5 years, 15 years ago. So, one, it creates the possibility. It makes you more credible. And really, it opens the conversation instead of, is it possible, to how can we make it happen now?
Yeah. Actually, I think that's the first roadblock until now when people think about or talk about starting a zero-waste lifestyle, yung possibility. And I think when you have people that's actually doing it, it inspires them when they have models. I was gonna ask actually kung meron kang models noon when you were trying to start zero. Kasi before, like 20 years ago, it's not as popular. It's not a trend.
Yes.
Right now, it's a good thing.
Yes.
It's becoming a trend. It's becoming an aesthetic of some sort.
Yes.
But before, sino yung mga models na tinitingnan mo when it comes to this kind of lifestyle?
There were actually several. In other places, in other countries, these started much earlier. So there are already a few who were doing it. But in the Philippines, one of my models was who we call our grandmother Earth, Tita Sonia. who is the chairman of Mother Earth Foundation, because she was really active, and what inspired me then was that it's not just about telling people how to do it, but it's really practicing the things that we're telling people. So it started there for me.
Okay. So maybe you've been doing this for almost 2 decades. So
Yes.
you've got your routine
Yes.
pinned down. Maybe you could share with us kung paano nangyayari yung daily routine mo. And maybe you could show us
Yeah.
yung mga stuff na dinala mo dito sa studio. So
Yes, because I don't want to talk. I want to show
Yeah,
kasi
yeah.
to show people that it's really possible and what are the options, and also it really could be simple. When I started, I really focused on 2 things: plastic bags and straws.
Okay.
So those are the first 2 things that I have to give up. There were efforts to go plastic free for a month, but it was difficult for some stuff. Like it's hard to give up chocolates, and then all chocolates are packed in some form of single-use packaging.
Yeah.
So it was difficult then. Now there are a lot more options, but I really started with plastic bags. So an eco bag is really an everyday
The
thing for me.
basic.
The basic,
Yeah.
And there's so many options. It's now cool, even for men especially.
Yeah.
Before, tote bags for men was not something that's
But now menswear, parang even if you're wearing like a casual suit and then
Yes.
you have a tote bag, it's stylish.
right, right. So I think times are changing and for the better. So that's good. No, but you can never go wrong with a tote bag because whether you go sa palengke or sa supermarket or even in the bookstore, you can use this. But then again, for me, before, this was even challenging kasi may mga pilosopo pa na, magkano ba yan? Yung plastic bag, libre lang, di ba? Eto, bibili pa ako. So, we say na, well, sometimes you have to go back to your basic 3 R's, which is to reduce. So, kung nasa bookstore ka, isang libro ang bibilhin mo, kailangan ba talaga na i-plastic pa yon? Why don't you just hold it, di ba? So,
Or you can put it in your bag.
in your bag already. So, yun siguro yung basic nung zero waste lifestyle is to look at what you're doing and what can you afford not to use. And plastic bags would be one of the top candidates that you can let go.
Actually, I have friends na kapag lalabas kami or like trips outside Metro Manila, going to the beach or the mountains, they always have tote bags in their car.
Yes.
Para kunyari, yung mga bibili sila ng gulay na syempre pag sa
nagbagyo ka.
probinsya, 'di ba? Madami mas mura doon tapos So they always have these tote bags. So pag naisipan na mamalengke, doon na ilalagay.
It's also a good way to be mindful about our consumerism. Kasi if I go sa grocery store and I bring this bag, ito na yung limit ko. Even if I see something na kasi minsan pag nasa, ay, maganda or masarap, bibili. But this is my limit. So pag hindi kasya dito, hindi ko nabibilhin. So I have to prioritize. So nagiging mindful ka rin talaga sa consumption. So that's the first item. The second item is now part of my everyday kit then, travel kit. But it was really first a drinking straw. So I have several here. And it's for several reasons. One, there's a lot of plastic straws out there, right? And we've seen pictures of turtles with straws on their nose. So medyo heart-wrenching siya. Pero it's also may personal interest din ako. Kasi in my research, what I found out is that there's already plastic particles in our body.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because of the food contact plastics that we are using every day. And straw is one of those. Over the course of this advocacy, I've also learned a interesting trivia that was helpful in the campaign, lalo sa mga babae na medyo conscious, Kasi what I've heard from, I won't name her, but from a famous doctor, skin doctor, sabi niya, drinking from straw is what is causing wrinkles.
Really?
Sabi niya. So,
But is that messaging effective? You think?
At least it starts a
Because
conversation.
people are
Yeah,
concerned with their
Kasi pag group
appearance.
workshop, parang that's I doubt if only for that some people would stop, but for others maybe, and I think that's what's critical sa advocacy is that you should have different messaging for different people.
Maybe it also concretizes
Yes.
the issue.
Right.
Nararamdaman nila eh.
Epekto,
Nakikita nila
yes.
eh. Oo.
And also, especially for my generation, no, I have a lot of friends who are having difficulty conceiving.
Oh.
And plastic and the chemicals that they put in plastic is a major contributor for that. No? And what's the most frequent food plastic that you come in contact with is those that come in your food or the ones that you use to drink. No? So, yun, kung beauty conscious ka, it causes wrinkles. That's one motivation to stop using it. Or for health, no, generally, a lot of this are toxic to us, to our bodies, and especially if you plan to conceive, then it's a good thing because overall it's good for you. No? So ito yung naging part ng initially, pero nag-expand na siya kasi when we go out, no, unfortunately, yung mga restaurants nag-transition na into single-use and disposable utensils, no? Now, bumabalik ulit. Like si Quezon City, may ordinance na dapat pag dine-in, hindi disposable, no? But that's not true for other places, especially when you travel, no, or for mga events.
And it's not yet a hard and fast rule eh.
Exactly, no. So unfortunately, no, nasa atin pa rin minsan yung burden to do better, no. But while we're changing the system, let's do our part. So I have my utensils, chopstick, and then even a knife.
Bakit, sorry, dalawa yung spoon mo?
Kasi when I travel, so sometimes magagamit mo na siya, you have no space to wash it. No? Kahit ikaw naman, parang medyo icky pa rin to use again. So, may backup lang in case...
Pero pag umakit ng bundok, isa lang eh. Pupunasan mo lang
at least tuloy-tuloy na kasi yun, di ba? Parang, or minsan, medyo pag particular ka, kapag ulam sa dessert, iba naman. Hindi pang ganun. But at least it's just a backup. Kasi, one, it's really reusable. I've been using this for more than 10 years now. No? So,
it served you well.
very much, no? Very much
Kung nakaisang dekada na siya.
And I hope papapamana ko siya sa mga anak ko at papamangkin ko balang araw. So, this is my everyday kit. And then, when I go sa palengke, isa to sa mga common question is, where do you put your wet goods? Like, if you buy chicken or fish, ano? And I think all of us can relate dito.
Yeah.
Our handy ice cream container, right? So,
the memeable ice cream container.
So, at least, ito, alam mo na pag ikaw yung bumili, pag nag-open ka ng ref, hindi ice cream ang naman ito.
So, hindi ka disappointed. Yung
Hindi ako
ibang tao lang sa
disappointed,
bahay
yes.
nyo, madi-disappoint.
And I think we're only disappointed because we're not used to the habit of that reusing. You know? So, this is...
Hindi gaya could make a meme. Di ba? Akong messaging din lang yun.
Maybe Rappler could. Diyan kayo magaling. Diba? So, yeah. So, yun. The next set of item is when you go out naman and you eat, this is really helpful for me when I travel. Kasi when you go to the US, diba, ang laki ng portions talaga.
Yeah.
And one, it's expensive. So, you don't want food to go to waste. So, food containers for takeouts, no, is... I have this for my
Pero
mga soup.
kasya ba if like malaki yung portions nung... dahil dahil
leftover
siya.
Yeah. So, if I plan to take out na like hindi leftover, then I'd bring a bigger container, you know. But when I travel, typically it's just leftovers. So, kasha. And then I have these two others, no. So, leftover salad or sauces dito. And then, ito. And then, part of my work, unfortunately, involves a lot of travel.
Yeah.
While it's a happy
Which
thing
is
for
another
people. Yes.
discussion.
But we recognize na yung environmental impact ng travel is big, ano? Pero most of it is necessary for work. So what we try to do is minimize our impact. And zero waste is one way to minimize our impact. No? Of course, kung local travel, biking is one way,
Yeah.
no? Or kung long distance, kung may train options, it's better. Carpooling is one option. But sometimes, flight is the only option. So, we have to minimize our impact. And I have two things here. So, this is my favorite cups. So, similar siya sa mga cups sa aeroplano.
Okay.
Diba? Where they give you your wine, your juice, and your water.
Okay.
So,
kaya tatlo.
Kaya tatlo. Para I can get all.
Nandun lahat.
And I've counted before, sa isang long-haul flight to San Francisco, 13 to 14 hours, a typical yung seatmate ko would use about 20 cups in 12
20
hours. Diba? And that's what?
That's just
One person. Yes.
Okay.
And that's one flight, and that's one person multiply that to 400 people in one flight, or 200 to 400, multiply to several flights a day. Imagine how many cups are being
Grabe na
used.
parang if you're not really mindful, kung hindi mo rin siya bilangin, hindi mo
Yes.
malayan maka 20 cups ka na, plastic cups.
Like even for sachets, diba, when you ask people, why are you, isa lang naman ang araw-araw. But when it computed, that's roughly 60 billion
Mainit sa
sachets.
Pilipinas, so 2 beses ka maliligo.
Exactly.
2 sachets sa isang
So,
araw.
hindi natin napapansin, pero if hindi, pag pinagsama-sama lahat, malaki siya. So, like this, I save about 20 cups on one flight, especially since I really try to hydrate. I love my wine, unfortunately. So, I have my own separate wine and my orange juice. So, very, very helpful siya for me. Next is this. We all have our headsets, right? And kung stuck ka sa aeroplano, manonood ka ng entertainment doon, they'll give you a headset na separate pa from your own headset kasi iba yung plug nila.
Oh,
And for hygiene reasons, all of those should be packed in plastic.
right.
And for me, naisip ko, how can I further reduce it? No? So I can use my original headset, but then I just bought this, which is an adapter,
okay.
no, that I could
And
plug
you've been using that for
20 years.
20 years.
Diba? So, over the course, siguro ilang hundreds of plastic bags na ina-avoid ko. So, it's really simple things na parang, how can I use my existing stuff and not use something that's packed in plastic? And it's not so hard. This is like 20 pesos. I bought this.
Sorry, can I just comment?
Yes.
I mean, you've been using some of these stuff for years already. Siguro aside dun sa advocacy, what I find amazing, hindi mo siya nawawala. Kahit na maliliit na, like trinkets lang siya, hindi mo siya nawawala.
To be fair, minsan may mga nawawala din. Like, my water bottle, naiwan ko siya minsan. Pero ang iniisip ko na lang, hindi siya kawalan. Kasi dahil maganda siya, may value siya, whoever finds it will use it. So, nalipat lang yung
Kaya kung
ownership.
makakuha ko
Diba? I mean,
Hydro Flask.
wash it and then use it. So, minsan nawawalan din kasi, of course, may mga circumstances. No? So, yeah, it happens. But this one, careful. Actually, funny story. This one, ginamit ko sa aeroplano kasi ayoko nung plastic cups nila, yung spoon and fork ko. So, I use it. After, kasi antok ako, nakalimutan ko kunin sa tray. So, nung nag-bus out na,
nilinis
nakuha nila. I really begged the flight attendant, pwede ko bang halongkatin sa basura niyo?
And then,
And I found it.
pumayag sila. Or parang
Pumayag sila.
nung umpisa, medyo, bakit ginagawa?
Another
to, sir?
advantage is that when people see this, it actually na-amaze sila. No, so when they
Right.
saw me using this, na-establish na agad yung friendship with them.
Yeah.
When I use this, typically pag nag-wine, nabigay sila ng wine, ganito lang kadami. But typically, because na-amaze sila,
dinadagdagan
pinupuno
nila.
nila. No, so may added bonus din talaga yung...
May perks.
May perks, definitely. So, minsan nakakalimutan din, pero this is special kasi bamboo siya eh. Tapos, when I bought this, medyo expensive. But there are cheaper options. No? Don't be scared of the price. But that time, it was parang mabigat sa bulsa mawala. Kaya, nakiusap talaga ako na hanapin.
Yeah.
And thankfully, nakita ko naman. Next set in the is water bottles. No?
Okay.
That's one thing I don't understand na parang even for someone na hindi mayaman, ang default pa rin is bumili ka ng tubig.
Yeah.
It's something we have as almost as a free resource. Kasi if you compare a 500 ml water bottle, that's what 100 times premium pag bibili mo siya na nakabote versus sa bahay mo yung malakihan. So sa akin, depende sa use. Kung
Wait,
lalabas
you have
ako,
two.
I have two. Kung lalabas ako na may mas prone sa travel, matutumba, I use this. No?
Okay.
Pero pag nasa office ako or in a place na steady, glass kasi is my favorite material. It's inert.
Okay.
It's one of the safest. You can put hot, cold. It doesn't change the flavor. It doesn't give you any harmful substance. So glass is my favorite material. But unfortunately, if you're traveling, prone siya mabasag. No?
Yeah.
So, kaya dalawa yan.
So, sa office lang.
Sa office.
And you love your lemon water.
And I love my lemon water.
It's obvious.
Yes. And for me, kasi pag glass, nakikita ko, so it's a visual reminder to drink water. So for someone who wants to remain hydrated, I think this is a nifty tool or a hack to na parang you put your lemon, you see it, you're reminded every time, and it tastes good. and you know that you're not putting chemicals into your body, which is what we're doing every time we drink.
And this is recycled bottle from
And
a fast food restaurant,
that's
right?
the thing. So I really bought it for that, no? But
Okay.
in fact, you could reuse and repurpose. Mayonnaise, ito din naman yung container niya eh.
Yeah.
Diba? Just remove the cover.
Yeah.
Many things come, no? And typically, tinatago lang natin sa cupboard natin or unfortunately, tinatapon ng iba, no? And many of the mayonnaise containers, yung mga glass jars natin are actually not recyclable in the Philippine context. So, napupunta sa landfill.
Okay.
So, one of our call is reuse it kasi it's one of the best materials out there, no? So, especially for you.
I think you're the first person, you're the first person I know na gumagamit ng glass jar
Talaga?
as bottle. Yeah, kasi usually, Hydro
Eto.
Flask or these kinds of
Effective kasi yung
bottles,
marketing,
or
di ba? Kasi,
Nalgene.
di ba, pag,
Yeah. Tsaka, kasama sa marketing ng Hydro Flask, yung pag natumba siya, tapos maririnig mo siya.
mapabasa.
Alam mo na
Yes.
Hydro Flask siya.
so, yeah. And yung second set is my cups for everyday use. If I go to the cinema, alam ko magsa-shake ako, I bring this one.
Okay.
Pero pag everyday lang, for taho or beer sa tap or these are my, and of
Even
course,
beer.
even beer.
Interesting.
When I used to drink beer. now,
And now you just drink wine.
not even, binawasan na rin because of my doctor's advice. No, but
Okay.
even for juice, for whatever. But taho for me is the most useful. And ice cream. Diba? Kasi yung dirty ice cream.
The real ice cream, not the ice cream container na.
Yeah, the real one this time. And my favorite one is this. When I travel also, this is what I use for my toiletries.
Oh, okay.
So,
Do you have a soap there? Or?
I have my soap. I'll cover the brand.
Pwede ba nakatagayahan? That's yun ang problema ko pag nagte-travel.
And may shampoo.
Oh, okay.
Kasi, di ba, shampoo, kung di man sachet, plastic pa rin yun. So, I really want to reduce my plastic. So, ito. And the reason why kalbo is because pag mahaba yung hair ko, I need to add a few other things like conditioner or whatever, or swab or hair gel.
But that's optional naman kasi
That's
ayoko
optional.
na naman
Diba?
magpakalbo.
Yes. So, ang lesson there is that you have to negotiate ano yung kaya mo. And there are options, no? And sometimes, for me, na parang, it's just simpler for a guy, no? Na magpakalbo and then wala ka na i-maintain, wala ka na isusuklay. So, when I shower at the end of the day, at the start of the day, easy na. So, sa akin, eto, no? But of course, the reality is that given the current system and context that we have, it's impossible to be 100% unless you drastically change your lifestyle. And we recognize that's impossible for many of us. No, if you go to work or limited din yung budget, mahirap. It is possible for some people, but it's a massive change in lifestyle. So it's okay. Ang message natin ito is that there are things that
Maybe you can tell our audience directly, it's okay if...
it's okay if you still use a few plastic once in a while because there are no other alternatives.
Yeah.
In the meantime, call on our governments, call on corporations to provide those alternatives. These zero-waste lifestyle, this individual action, again, emphasize, is not a replacement for corporate action.
Yeah.
Hindi natin ito kasalanan. Diba? The plastic that we use, while we have a certain level of responsibility there, ultimately, it's the corporations who made a profit out of this. Ang accountable dito. We can do our part, but we need to call them out pag wala tayong options. Kasi parang, minsan nagigilty ka na, okay, gagamit ako nito, pero itong isang bagay, walang alternative.
Yeah.
And you feel bad. But in fact, don't feel bad. Be angry that bakit walang alternative. No?
Actually, parang meron ako mga nababasang thought pieces around that dilemma na parang on the one hand, you know na kailangan mong mag-practice ng or try to practice a zero waste lifestyle. Pero alam mo na hindi mo completely yun like dahil ganon built yung
Yes.
sistema and it's yung production ng mga kumpanya, ng mga
Yes.
produkto na ginagamit natin pang araw-araw. Nandun yung dilemma. And then, parang some thought pieces are saying, it's actually parang some form of gaslighting minsan. Kapag yung parang we feel that guilt na
Yes.
parang on our individual capacity, sobrang limited tayo, tas tayo yung nagigilty.
Yes.
Parang, Have you ever encountered young people who are feeling things like that na the
There,
guilt?
there are definitely young people over the course of this advocacy na nag-express that. And that's valid, di ba? Kasi yun yung binobombard sa atin na messaging na parang bakit may turtle na may plastic sa bunganga. It's because yung ikaw na tao, gumamit ka ng plastic. It's never the corporations, no? Lately lang na we shifted the narrative, no, via a brand audit. We're saying na more than the people, it's the brands who are producing it ang accountable dito. No, pero I think ang maganda din sa generation natin ngayon ay we're able to take parang ownership of all the things that are important to us, no? And do stuff that are necessary. In fact, isa sa proudest moment ko sa buhay ko as an advocate was I entered the bank and then a teller sabi niya, "Oy, Sir Froy, you might not remember me, but I'm happy to tell you that I've not used a plastic bag for 5 years now." And he attended a seminar, no, was one of the students. So ako parang, just being able to inspire one person to do one simple act is
That's already a huge impact.
yes, no, and how many more can you inspire? You know? So siguro sa akin yun yung messaging na start simple, start small, and go from there, because one, you're already making an impact to the world, both in the actual plastics or waste that you've reduced, but most importantly by inspiring others, no? And that's creating a ripple effect para they too would do their own simple thing.
And on the other hand, you also have people who are criticizing other people who are practicing zero waste lifestyle. Sinasabi nila, you're greenwashing, you're diluting the problems persisting because of climate crisis. Parang you who've been practicing this for 20 years. Ano yung sagot mo sa mga ganong allegations?
Sa akin kasi, it's not an and-or thing. You can practice this. Sabi ko nga sa akin, it's about integrity. I don't wanna advocate for something I'm not doing. So that's the number one reason. But hindi naman ako bulag sa katotohanan na hindi na-solve yung plastic problem because I stopped using plastic. So this is not a replacement. This is not to excuse the system, the problem within the system, and the real culprits, the corporation. So hindi yan or thing. Pwede mag-exist pareho. We can do our own stuff, but continue to call for changing the system. Yun siguro ang mahalaga. Sometimes kasi we feel na ginagawa ko ito, okay na, no? And ang message natin dyan is, yes, it's great that you're doing that, pero unfortunately, no, we need to do more.
Okay, so recently, nag-record ang mga scientists na hottest period na global temperatures. And in this context, and since you've been working with Gaia and other environmental groups, I think you've also encountered young people who are experiencing what we call climate doom,
Yes.
or
Climate
climate
fatigue.
anxiety. Na, well, personally, I also feel and experience na some young people do not want to have children because they don't see any future. So do you have any message for them na, kasi siguro iniisip nila, why would I bother doing these things?
Yes.
Or changing my lifestyle, doing these simple, seemingly small things. Kung, well, wala nang future. In general, that's what they're saying.
One, again, to recognize that those feelings are valid because the problem is really in front of us, no? Not just with the hot temperatures, but if you go diving, you're seeing it, the corals are dying, di ba? Yung biodiversity loss is really massive the past few years and few decades. No, but you also have to recognize na we are the problem and we can be part of the solution. No? So it's not yet the end of the world. It's almost there, pero we can still do something. And in fact, turn that depression or sense of loss into something that could inspire you. And zero waste is one area because sa study ni Gaia, nakita that zero waste is one of the most meaningful actions that individuals, governments, and corporations can do to mitigate, no, or to lessen the impact on climate. Why? Food waste, for example. If you throw away food waste, we don't compost it, it goes to a landfill, it produces methane gas. And methane gas is 23 times more potent than carbon dioxide in causing uh, uh, warming effect. No? So, our simple thing, may epekto. So, just by making sure that we cook the right amount, we don't waste food, ano ang impact? No? If all of us try to reduce food waste, if all our barangays, all our cities compost all organics, massive yung impact natin. And that's equivalent to several thousand cars or million cars, no, for one city, for example. So, may simple at madaling paraan.
Yes.
No? Second, the plastic that we use is still fossil fuel. The extraction of it is contributing to the climate problem. Yung disposal, yung burning of plastic is contributing to the climate problem. So using or not using plastic is both good for the planet because there's no plastic pollution. It's good for your health because there are no toxins that you put into the body, but it's also good for the climate. So the problem might be big, and this is where individual actions come in because it could show you na may mga pwedeng gawin.
Again, the ripple effect that you're
Yes,
saying.
no, and it use that, convert that sadness or the sense of loss into rage and call for action. No, na parang ginagawa ko to, kung lahat tayo gagawa, malaki yung impact. Again, going back to sachet. Kung ikaw lang mag-isa, it's 1 sachet or 2 sachets per day kung twice maligo. But 100 million Filipinos, how many sachets? That's 60 billion sachets every year based on a study. So, yung problema kapag pinagsama-sama lumaki, but actions, kahit maliit, pag pinagsama-sama, malaki rin yung impact.
Right. Okay, so let's try to end this show in a positive note.
Yes.
And since we're already talking about systems, in those 20 years that you're working in environmental advocacy, ano na yung progress na nakita mo from the first time you brought a tote bag in a grocery store sa ngayon na trend na siya and even an aesthetic to go
Yes.
green?
I would say marami. No? Kasi that's also the evolution of my personal journey on zero waste was that it started as a personal action. Then I did education work, young people especially. But then I realized na I could do 1 million workshops and not change the system. So in my work then with Mother Earth Foundation, we work with cities. And doon napakita namin na kaya sa tao, kaya sa barangay, kaya sa isang city na gawin yung zero waste. So look for a Rappler article on San Fernando, Pampanga, no, na kilalang model siya on zero waste. Look for Apo Island, look for Siquijor Island. Marami ng cities sa Pilipinas ang gumagawa. If you want other examples, San Francisco, Berkeley in the US, no, Kamikatsu in Japan, marami. Pero sa Pilipinas lang, kilala tayo as a model.
Yeah.
Just last month, no, we welcomed here several African officials, mayors, para tingnan paano natin ginagawa. No? And for me, that's a major accomplishment. Kasi before, 20 years ago, my work is to convince mayors that it's possible. Now, my work is to facilitate mayors to learn from each other because they already recognize it's possible. They want to know how they can do it in their own context. No? And yun sa akin siguro yung biggest accomplishment na it's not a conversation whether zero waste is possible. It's a conversation of how can I do it in my context. No? And many are doing it. And if you've refused a single plastic bag in your life, you've contributed to that. So thank you, and siguro let's inspire more people to do what we're doing.
And also, it's a matter of political will, diba?
Definitely.
From the LGUs and even up to the national government.
When the plastic pollution issue came about 5-7 years ago, ang akala natin talaga actions are individual or local governments. No, but right now the Global Plastics Treaty is happening kasi nakilala na siya. No, so kumbaga may different levels of action and lahat yun valid. Individual, sa city mo, sa barangay mo, sa bahay mo, or even your office or your school, make it a zero waste. Lahat yun valid, lahat yun nakakatulong.
It all contributes to this big movement towards a greener world, not just a lifestyle.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So anyway, thank you, Froilan, for sharing your experience and your knowledge on zero waste. And that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have story ideas, you can pitch at Iagozum on Twitter. See you next episode. Bye.